I realized my wife had already stopped seeing me as her husband. The moment she started acting like my presence didn't change anything. And the worst part, I thought that meant we had finally become mature. If you had asked me what kind of marriage I had, I would have said, solid. Not exciting, not dramatic, just solid. I was 43, married for 16 years, 2 kids, Caleb, 14, and Nora, 9. We lived in Virginia. Quiet street, predictable routines, the kind of neighborhood where everybody waves and nobody really knows what's happening inside anyone else's house. My wife, Heather, worked part-time at a law office. I worked in operations for a distribution company. Nothing glamorous, nothing unstable, just a life built on alarms, schedules, grocery lists, school pickups, mortgage payments, and the quiet pride of surviving another month without anything falling apart. From the outside, we look fine. That's the problem with fine. It hides everything. Heather used to react to me. That sounds small, that it isn't. When I came home late, she'd notice. When I canceled something, she'd ask why. When I seemed off, she'd press a little. Not because she wanted conflict, because my presence still mattered enough to move the emotional temperature of the room. And for years, if I'm honest, I found that exhausting. I'm not a naturally emotional person, that I don't like circling things, that I don't like long talks after long days, that I don't like turning every shift in tone into some deep relationship conversation. My instinct has always been simple. If something is wrong, fix it. If it can't be fixed tonight, leave it alone. That if it's emotional and vague, it'll probably pass. That system works pretty well at work. It does not work particularly well in a marriage. But it took me too long to understand that. Heather used to say the same line to me whenever she felt me checking out. You're here, but you're not really here. I hated that sentence. Not because it was cruel, because it was inconvenient. Because technically I was there. I went to work, that I came home, that I paid bills, that I showed up to games when I could, I took care of repairs, that I did what I thought men were supposed to do. What else did she want? That's a question I kept asking in my head. Not out loud, because out loud it would have sounded worse. But I thought it out a lot. And the more I thought it, the more I treated her emotional needs like moving targets I could never fully hit anyway. So I started doing what a lot of men do when they feel inadequate in a language they were never taught to speak. I got efficient. She would say, "Can we talk about something?" I'd say, "Sure," in a tone that made it clear I hoped it would be brief. She would bring me a feeling, that I'd bring her a conclusion. She would bring uncertainty, that I'd bring a solution. She would bring hurt, that I'd bring perspective. And if that didn't work, I'd do what I always do. Make it smaller. It's not that bad. You're reading too much into it. I think you're just stressed. Let's not turn this into a big thing. I thought I was calming things down. Maybe I was. Maybe I was also teaching my wife that the deeper parts of her didn't have much room in my world. For a long time, Heather kept trying anyway. That's what haunts me now. She kept trying. She would circle back after dinner, bring something up in the car, ask again after the kids went to bed, try a softer version, try a clearer version, try silence, and hope I noticed. And because she kept trying, I assumed we were okay. Because as long as someone still fights for the connection, you can pretend the connection is still there. That was my first mistake. Then one day, she stopped. Not all at once. Not in a way that made a sound. Just gradually. No more follow-up questions. No more, "Can we talk?" No more pauses that were clearly invitations for me to say more than I wanted to say. At first, I felt relief. That's the ugly truth. I felt relief. The house got quieter. The evenings felt easier. There was less tension hanging in the room after simple things. When I was late, she didn't bring it up. When I forgot something, she handled it. When I gave a short answer, she didn't go digging underneath it. I told myself what a lot of comfortable people tell themselves when discomfort disappears. Maybe we finally got past it. That was my second mistake. Because quiet is seductive. It can look like peace, especially to the person who benefits from it most. Heather became smoother. That's the word I'd use now. Less reactive, less emotional, more self-contained. If I was running late, dinner moved on without me. That if a kid needed something and I forgot, she had a backup plan. That if I seemed distracted, she no longer reached into that silence to see what was there. She just adjusted. At first, I admired it. I thought, she's just less dependent now that she's figured out how not to let everything get to her. This is probably healthier. But deep down, there were moments that unsettled me. Little ones. The kind you can dismiss if you don't want to know what they mean. One Friday, I got home later than I said I would. Not wildly late, 40 minutes maybe, but late enough that old Heather would have texted twice and met me with that tight expression that said I mattered enough to be missed. I walked in ready with my explanation. Traffic. Call ran long. Supplier issue. Heather was in the kitchen packing leftovers into containers. Hey, I said. She looked up. Hey. Then she looked back down. That was it. No edge. No question. No mention of the time. I remember standing there with my keys still in my hand, waiting for the rest of the interaction to arrive. It never did. I got stuck at work, I said. She nodded. Okay. Not cold, not angry, just neutral. And somehow that felt worse than irritation. Because irritation means you still affect something. Neutral means you may not. A week later, I missed one of Nora's small school events. Nothing huge, a reading thing 20 minutes in the library. I forgot. Honestly forgot. Work day, fatigue, noise, the usual excuses people use when they don't want to say the simpler truth. I wasn't paying enough attention. When I got home, I expected disappointment, at least a quiet one. Instead, Heather just said, she did great. That was all. No guilt. You promised. No second chance for me to apologize in demeaning. Just information. That's when the discomfort in me got sharper. Not because she was mean, because she wasn't. Because she sounded like someone updating a co-parent. Not someone speaking to a husband whose absence still hurt. After that, I started noticing other things. Heather stopped asking my opinion on small decisions, then bigger ones. She scheduled things, moved things around, solved things before I even knew they existed. At first, I interpreted that as competence. And to be fair, it was competence. But it was also something else. A life learning how to function without waiting on me. And once you notice that, you start seeing it everywhere. The way she no longer looked up right away when I walked in. The way she stopped saving stories from her day for later. The way she answered good when I asked how things were, with a finality that left no room for the real answer. We still had conversations, just not real ones. Schedules, groceries, kids, logistics, everything necessary, nothing intimate. It's amazing how long two adults can live inside the shell of marriage if the machinery is still running. One night, we were sitting on the couch. Same places as always, that TV on. Kids upstairs. Heather was on her phone. I was half watching some show I couldn't explain to you now if I had to. And she smiled. Not a big smile. That made it worse. Big smiles can be explained. This one was private. Unconscious. The kind that appears before a person remembers they're being watched. What? I asked. She didn't even turn the screen. Nothing. That word again. Nothing. I let it go. Because by then I had trained both of us well. She had trained herself not to bring me things, and I had trained myself not to ask twice. A few nights later, I woke up around 1 a.m. Couldn't sleep. I rolled slightly and saw the glow. Heather was beside me, facing away, phone in her hand under the blanket. Typing. Pausing. Typing again. Then smiling. The same smile. Soft, real, alive. And in that moment, something in me shifted hard enough that I couldn't lie to myself as easily anymore. I still didn't have proof, still didn't have a name, still didn't have a story I could tell myself cleanly. But I had a feeling, a real one, that my wife's emotional life was happening somewhere I no longer had access to. The next few days, I tried to act normal. I still went to work, still asked about dinner, still said goodnight. But once a man starts looking for absence, he sees how much of it has been there all along. Heather no longer waited for me to sit down before starting a show, and no longer texted to ask when I'd be home, and no longer asked if I wanted her to say me anything beyond the minimum courtesy. It wasn't hostility. That's what made it so difficult to confront. Hostility gives you something to push against. This was different. This was adaptation. She had adapted to a version of marriage where I existed, but didn't matter in the same way anymore. And then, a few nights later, everything changed. I got home early. Unexpectedly early. No warning, no call. The house was quiet. Kids upstairs, kitchen light on. Heather was at the counter. Her phone was there too. Screen lit. Unlocked. And for the first time in 16 years of marriage, I didn't look away. I didn't look away. Not this time. Not because I wanted to invade her privacy, but because something in me already knew This wasn't about privacy anymore. The phone was on the counter. Screen lit. Messages open. I didn't pick it up. I didn't need to. The angle was enough. The message at the top said, "I like who I am when I talk to you." My chest tightened. Because that sentence wasn't about him. It was about who she wasn't with me anymore. Then another message appeared. "You don't make me feel like I'm too much." That one hit deeper. Because I knew exactly what that meant. I had spent years making things smaller. Her emotions. Her concerns. Her attempts to connect. I called it calming things down. She probably experienced it as being reduced. I stepped back. Slowly. Like if I moved too fast, it would all become real. "Hey." Her voice behind me. I turned. Heather stood in the doorway, watching me. Her eyes moved to the counter, then back to me. And in that moment, everything changed. Because she knew, not what I saw, but that I saw something. "How long have you been home?" she asked. "Just got in." Not a lie, but not the truth either. She walked past me, picked up her phone, locked it. That movement said everything. Not panic, not fear, control. We stood there. Same kitchen, different reality. "I saw your messages," I said. Silence. Immediate. She didn't ask what. Didn't pretend. Didn't deny. "What did you see?" she asked. Same tone. Calm. Prepared. "I saw enough," I said. She exhaled slowly. Looked down. Then back up. And something in her face shifted. Not guilt. Relief. That caught me off guard. Like she had been holding something in for a long time. "How long?" I asked. She didn't hesitate. "A few months." Of course. Months. Not a mistake. Not a moment. Something that had time to grow. "And it's not just talking," I said. Not a question. She shook her head. "No. Just that. No explanation. No defense. Just truth." "Are you seeing him?" I asked. That question changed everything. Because now, there was no space left. She looked at me. Held it. Yes. Quiet. Clear. I nodded once. No anger. No reaction. Because at that point, I already knew. "How long have you felt like this?" I asked. That question made her pause. Not about him. About us. "A long time," she said. That answer again. Heavy. "Before him?" I asked. She nodded. Yes. That hit harder than everything else. Because it meant this wasn't about him. He didn't take her from me. He met her. After she had already emotionally stepped away. "I didn't know," I said. She nodded. "I know." That answer again. That quiet confirmation that I had missed something important. We stood there. Same house. Different timelines. "I thought we were better," I said. She shook her head slightly. "We were quieter," she said. That difference, cut deep, quiet, is not the same as better. "I thought I was giving you space," I said. She looked at me. "I didn't need space," she said. "I needed you to actually be there." That one landed hard because I knew exactly what she meant. Every time she came to me with something emotional, I shortened it, reduced it, closed it. I thought I was solving, but I was ending conversations that needed to stay open. "You stopped reacting," I said. She nodded. "Because reacting didn't change anything," she said. That sentence stayed in the room. Heavy. Unavoidable. "I got tired of feeling like I was the only one trying to feel something between us," she added. Silence. "Does he know about me?" I asked. "Yes." "What did you tell him?" "That you're a good man." That hit harder than expected. "And a husband?" I asked. She didn't answer. Didn't need to. I nodded slowly. Then asked the question that mattered most. "Are you leaving?" She didn't answer immediately. And that silence told me everything. "I don't know," she said. That answer again. But now, it meant something different. It meant she hadn't chosen me. She stepped slightly closer. "I didn't plan this," she said. I nodded. "Yeah," I said. Neither did I. And that was the truth. Not clean, not simple, but real. The worst part wasn't that there was someone else. It was that she had already become someone else. In a life where I no longer mattered the same way. I no longer mattered the same way. That was the part that stayed with me. Not the messages. Not even the fact that there was another man. It was the realization that while I thought I was still her husband, I had already become background. Heather stood across from me in the kitchen, phone in her hand, face calm, not distant, just resolved. I asked, "What's his name?" "Mark," she said. "Of course. Just a normal name. That always feels wrong. Because something that changes your life should feel bigger than that." How do you know him? I asked. She hesitated for a second. Through work, she said. Then we started talking. Talking. That word again. It always starts there. Safe. Harmless. Until it replaces something. How long have you been seeing him? I asked. A few months. Months. Time I thought we were just stable. Did you sleep with him? I asked. She paused. Then nodded. Yes. That hit. But not the way I expected. Because the real loss had already happened. What did you tell him about me? I asked. She looked at me. That you're a good man, she said. That you take care of everything. I almost laughed. That version of me sounded complete. Reliable. Responsible. But something was missing. And what did you leave out? I asked. She didn't hesitate this time. That I didn't feel seen with you. That one landed. Because it was simple. And true. I was right here, I said. She nodded. I know, she said. But you weren't with me. That difference cut deeper than anything else. Being present physically is not the same as being emotionally available. And I had spent years confusing the two. I thought I was doing everything right, I said. She looked at me. You were doing everything that keeps a life running, she said. Then she added, but not everything that keeps a relationship alive. That sentence stayed in the room. Heavy. Unavoidable. Because I understood it immediately. I built structure. I maintained stability. But I stopped building connection. Stopped feeding it. Stopped protecting it. When did you stop seeing me that way? I asked. That question made her pause. Not because she didn't know, but because she did. When I realized I could disappear emotionally, and you wouldn't notice, she said. That was it. That was the moment. Not when she met him. Not when she started talking to someone else. But when my absence stopped changing anything. That realization broke something in me. Because it meant I didn't just lose her. I faded out. Slowly. Without even realizing it. Upstairs, I heard movement. Nora. Soft footsteps. Then Caleb. More still. More aware. They didn't come down. They just stood near the stairs. Listening. Kids always know. Not the details. But the shift. And something had shifted. Heather noticed too. She glanced toward the stairs. Then back at me. And for the first time, her expression changed. Not distance. Sadness. Real sadness. Because now, this wasn't just about us. It was about what this would become. What happens now? I asked. That question felt heavier than everything else. Because now, there was no more past to explain. Only decisions. She didn't answer immediately. And that silence felt final. I don't know, she said. That answer again. But this time, it wasn't avoidance. It was truth. She didn't know how to go back. And I didn't know how to fix something. I didn't even realize I was breaking. I can try, I said. That came out before I thought about it. Because part of me still believed there was something left. Something we could rebuild. She looked at me. And that look said everything. Not anger. Not rejection. Just distance. I needed you to try before, she said. That was it. No yelling. No blame. Just timing. And I was late. Not by days. By years. If you're watching this, and your relationship feels stable, not bad, just routine, predictable, don't assume that means it's safe. Because sometimes, nothing breaks. Things just fade. One person keeps showing up the same way. The other slowly disappears inside that. Until one day, they don't need you to feel anything anymore. Heather didn't leave me in one moment. She left slowly. Every time I made something smaller. Every time I avoided depth. Every time I chose comfort over connection. And by the time I realized she had stopped seeing me as her partner, she had already found someone who made her feel visible again.